Yes, what's going on, y'all? It's Master Five here with HipHopSuccess.tv on our fifth webisode of the Roundtable.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
Welcome, everybody. We had a few technical difficulties, but we are in the flesh now. It took us a second to get everything situated, but we're all here now. We're looking forward to having a great webisode. And Phil, let's talk about the topic we got here, man. This is a good one.
Yeah, we are talking about cell phone addiction, and I feel this is an issue that is happening in society, especially among children. That's mainly what we're talking about today. Most adults somehow have a grip on everything happening with, they have an understanding and a rhythm with how they use their technology and everything. But the issue that we're talking about is how early children are having access to mobile devices and the effects that it's happening on to their brains, the way they think, the way they interact with humans. I mean, it's easy to texting is like the norm now. Talking is like so intimate to people now that they're uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of kids, they can't hold eye contact with another human being for more than 5 seconds. And that's an issue. That's going to hinder that child or even that young teen or adolescent. Now,
Yeah.
getting right into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, Coach, you already have a young daughter and a newborn. And then, Sam, you have a newborn son. And my first question to you guys is, well, we'll start with Coach. Coach, how did you handle, Kennedy was obviously born during, when technology was around and flourishing. And then obviously your new child is being born into the digital era, of course. So how did you handle Kennedy? And are you going to play it any different from your new child in terms of how early they're going to have mobile device access?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, my daughter's 15 and a half. So she was born, to your point, in the era of technology. Now, I put a cell phone in her hand at 10 years old. I did. Some people might say, why did you do that? People would ask me questions about that. But the reasoning for that is during that time, I was going through a divorce, and obviously I wanted my child to have access, and I wanted to have access to my child. So that was the primary reason why she got a cell phone at 10 years old, number one. Number two, I did see the trend of, she's born in 2001. I got a divorce 2007 of technology and web 2.0, 3.0. So I wanted her to be familiar with these things and these tools. Obviously, I didn't know the effects of what we're dealing with as a society today with cell phone addiction, but I think she's handled it pretty well. And I think that goes to the co-parenting between her mother and myself. So I think that's how she's dealing with that well. As you guys know, I mentor some at-risk youth as well. And my wife, my current wife, is a therapist. So she's a mental health professional, and she deals with kids all the time. And she talks about this being a big, big issue. But obviously Kennedy, she's a teenager, and I am concerned about the phone. But I've actually taken the phone away from her for 7 to 10 days, and she was just fine.
Okay, and then Bam, you got the newborn, LB3. So he is definitely born into the digital era. And so how are you with him, growing up? How are you going to introduce mobile device and technology? At what age? What are you feeling? He's smart. He's learning so fast. It's kind of scary, probably. Like, man, he's catching on. Like, how are you going to introduce technology to him?
Well, it was a trip seeing my niece, first of all. My son has a while before he gets after it. I see now that he already knows how to swipe. 10 months old, he figured out how to swipe pictures. And, if you touch it like this, it does that. He even figured out, he thinks it's the TV controller, sometimes points it at the TV, And I saw my niece pick up the iPhone pretty fast and go to her favorite TV shows and look at, different programs that she liked. And I just thought it was amazing to see how fast they pick it up. But also disturbing to me because my cousin, she's addicted to her cell phone. I bought her a cell phone. I asked her to look at it. She's 15 years old, almost 16. When she was 14, I asked her to see her cell phone, and it was like, no. And I told my aunt, I said, hey, I bought her the cell phone. I mean, aren't you worried what's going on? I mean, kids can look at the internet. They can look at anything in their cell phone. And I just miss the days where kids, we figured things out. You know, we couldn't go to the phone for Google. We couldn't just Google anything that we needed to know. We had to do some research. We couldn't pick up the phone and get on the internet. It forced us to have conversations with people. And if you get in the elevator today now, what do you see? Everybody's looking down at their phone. It's almost like robots. You get in an elevator and no one says, hello, hey, how you doing? You might have met the person of your dreams if you're looking for a relationship. You might have met the business contact you always needed had you sparked up a simple conversation, you know? But wait, hold on, fellas. Hello? No, hold on. I'm doing a roundtable right now. Let me call you. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, you had me. I was like, man, this dude's not doing it. That was a good one. You got me.
But that's my point exactly. You can have a serious conversation with somebody, and they boom right on the cell phone. It's like people are honestly lightweight addicted to the communication of cell phone. I mean, in business, I don't understand how we built this country with all of these skyscrapers and all of the technology that we have. I'm on my cell phone for business a lot of the day. So I'm constantly reading emails. I'm driving. I have to stop and pull over to look at emails, to really thoroughly look at an email. You don't want to drive and look through. Now they have DocuSign and all these different things. But as far as children, I just think it's a balance. I think with parents, I think it's a certain time you should cut the cell phone off. You know, after 10 p.m., that's my personal opinion. After 10 p.m., I don't think it's much for a kid to do that they need to do on the cell phone. I have a cousin who I was just speaking about stays on the cell phone to 2 in the morning with her friends. Her mom will catch her. But it's on the parent to snatch that away and say, hey, I'm not having that in this house. And if you don't, I feel like the kids start to feel like they have control. And now they're on social media. They're talking to whomever's up at those hours and not focusing on school or the things that maybe they should focus on. I think it gives balance to say, hey, from this time to this time, your cell phone's in service. I can reach you when you get out of school. I can pick you up. You can get to your cousin's house and I pick you up from school, or your aunt's house or whatever. But I think after a certain time, it's just balance like anything else in life. And I think now we're so dependent on the cell phone, it's getting a bit ridiculous. And I look at myself and see the same things. Just like now, that's why I did that, because sometimes I'm talking to my mom and I'll pick up the phone in the middle of a conversation. She's like, dude, is it that serious? You know, we had a family dinner and she had a basket and made everybody put their cell phones at the front. And said, look, for this meal, we're going to have some eye to eye. You know, we're going to have a full dinner, full conversation. We're going to focus on the interaction amongst us and giving that full energy to each other without everybody looking down every 5 minutes, you know? To answer your question, Phil, I know that was long and drawn out, but to answer your question, I don't think little man will have his own cell phone until, 10, 11 maybe, where he has a personal cell phone. And even then I might fill out how things are going, But
Yeah.
I'd say 10 or 11 like Coach did with Kennedy.
It's something that, like we even said in the title, it's something in society that I think people are being really naive. I work for Pittsburgh Job Corps, and a lot of the youth that come in and that I have to work with, they have big issues with being separated from their cell phone. I mean, it's to the point where you ask some of these kids for their cell phone, you say no cell phones in class, which is something we're going to get into later. You ask them for their cell phone, and I mean, it's almost like they about to throw their hands up, like you about to steal like a gold chain from them or something, or It's to the point they would rather let you slap them in the face than take their cell phone. Like, I mean, obviously privacy issues, this and that, but there is a addictive connection to that cell phone, man. I mean, it's scary to see because it's every kid that comes in, every 16-year-old, 17-year-old, it's always the same thing. And what me and my girl talk about, it's a lot of parents, they're using it as like my girl always says, they're using mobile devices and technology as a pacifier. It's like, look, okay, like be quiet, take this tablet, or take the phone and just
yeah,
go, or be quiet, take the, like
yeah.
that's hindering kids when they're growing up.
When they're
So,
growing up. On another note, sometimes when my little man is acting a beast and he's just won't give up the crying, I'll put on the Gummy Bear song on my phone and set it up.
And it works, huh?
It works, bro. And it's sad, but it works because people didn't have that in the back of the day. They just figured it out. Maybe he needed to cry for a minute. Maybe you had to just deal with that for a minute, So we're it's a give and a take here. And it's kind of tough to say. Phil, I commend you for coming up with this topic because at the Roundtable, we want to welcome everybody. This show is for you. And we always try to come up with a topic that helps the people, shed some light on some topics that we feel the people need. And this was a great one because I'm also addicted to myself, and I have to admit.
Yes, you are. I see you in action. I would agree with that statement. Is that the first rule to dealing with addiction, acknowledging it, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, you could be addicted and then, you could be working. Like, I've personally worked with Bam. Like, the guy's phone is off the hook. You talk about contacts in your phone, how you have a bunch of contacts, they're all calling him. Like, he's a very busy person. So I think there's a huge difference between being really busy and actually working and active with your contacts and everything going on through different types of media, email, phone, text, whatever. And then, so if now Bam's addicted, if he goes home, has a kid, and is still just spending hours on the cell phone, he's not at work, he's just BSing on the phone, you might have a problem. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that's the case,
I think social media has its business perks. I try to limit my time surfing on social media because it can become addicting. I do like to get some news information. I like to, I wouldn't say I spend more than an hour actually surfing throughout a day. A lot of it has to do with what we're doing, Hip Hop Success, and just kind of being current with what's going on out there. But sometimes when I'm with my son and we're having one-on-one, I have to put down my cell phone. I don't even look at it because I don't want that distraction. And I think that's where the discipline comes in. And a lot of people don't have that discipline where they're constantly on social media or they're constantly looking for, how to get views and likes. And, they forget how to communicate one-on-one. Could you imagine these kids on a date these days? What do they do? Text each other? And they just sit at the table and send texts?
I got some statistics for that. They say, these are the U.S. adult statistics that use smartphones. So you can only imagine it's probably higher with youth. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Now adults, maybe it'd be 18. I don't really know the bottom line, but they say 35% of U.S. adults use cell phones in a movie theater. Go figure. 33% on a dinner date, which is what you just mentioned. 32% of adults use their cell phones at a child's school function. 55% of adults use a cell phone or mobile device while driving.
Dangerous.
So you're supposed to be paying attention on the road, and everybody's guilty of it. Most people. I'm a little guilty of it at times at a stoplight.
Yeah.
When I start driving, I kind of look, which is something I ain't no saint. Ain't no saints out here, like I always say. But it is a very bad habit. They say it's way more dangerous than drinking and driving or driving under the influence. Like cell phone usage while driving is a killer, straight up.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How many times have you caught yourself and had to brake hard because you were looking at your cell phone?
Oh, a couple times, especially when you're yielding and you're waiting kind of in traffic, and you're like, you have a routine of when the car is stopped, not even at a red light, if it's just stopped, you want to take a little peek, and then you look up and then you see a movement, so you start going and you look, and you're like, whoa, and then you got to hit the brake, like, vendors off the chain, it's people. It's very dangerous. I'm guilty of it. I'm trying to work on it. I'm not acting like I don't do it, and it's funny. people can be hypocrites, including myself at times, because I scare myself doing it. I try to work on it. But when I'm in somebody's car and they doing it, it definitely freaks me out because I'm not at the wheel.
I'll call somebody on it. Like, bro, can you stop texting while I'm in the car? Like, come on, man, pay attention.
And then sometimes I'll get mad when people behind me check me in my own car. But, you know, hey, they're right. Like, I can't be a hypocrite. Like, you're right. Hold on, let me turn this on.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I got mad at some people walking through an intersection. And my girl was like, well, if you stop peeping at your phone every 5 minutes.
She called you out. You know what I'm saying?
I can't argue with that part. The people in the intersection were wrong walking on the red light. But that had I made a mistake.
But they got the right of way, though, right?
Right away, even though it wasn't their turn to walk and I had the arrow, they're not paying attention. I get caught on my cell phone. I'm wrong. It's two left shoes. So
yes.
I'm focusing on these days, especially when my little man's in the back seat. That phone is away from me, man. It's like away from me. It can wait. Nothing is that serious. And that's what I think today. Everything's moving so fast, we forget. None of this is more important than just being here. And when you start putting business before existing, that's when it becomes a problem. If that phone call or that text or that business or anything was that important, now if it's your kids calling, you got to go pick them up, or it's an emergency, somebody got to go to the hospital, I understand that, and it's a way to do it. But I consider myself a very good driver. Knock on wood, I haven't had many accidents at all. I don't put myself in positions where I'm swooping through different lanes. I look at youngsters doing that now. People, tailgating, riding hard on the back of somebody. I look at them like idiots because they didn't get any further ahead than I did, and I'm just staying in one lane. And you see cats just skipping through lanes. And then you see them on the phone at the same time, and I'm thinking, wow, driving like an idiot, cell phone in hand, that's an accident waiting to happen.
I mean, it's crazy when you break it down. You're operating such a huge vehicle at high speeds, and yet people think they can maintain. It only takes less than half a second, a millisecond, for you to look down, and it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Yeah. People do everything when they drive. They eat
without your cell phone.
So let me ask you guys a question. Coach Tony Brace, I'm in the business of asking questions. Right now in the state of Nevada, I believe, for your first offense for texting and driving or being on your phone while driving, I think it's something like $50. If they raise that ticket rate or fine, if you will, to $1,200, do you think that would curb the behavior?
Absolutely.
For sure.
And
okay.
If the cops are really out there pulling over and handing them tickets, oh yeah, you're gonna get some immediate results. I mean, I used to gamble a little bit in the HOV lane in the DMV, and those tickets were really expensive too. If you didn't have more than, I think, 2 people. If you're one person driving in the HOV, I mean, that's like, I think it was like a $600 or $800 fine, I believe. And I never did that again when I heard about it. That's crazy.
So the reason why I'm asking you guys this question, I'm pro-business, I'm pro-freedom. I'm really not about the government being in my business. But in this case, because I'm part of the public when I'm driving or commuting or, in transit, en route, traveling somewhere, and somebody's on their cell phone, I'm okay with the rates of the fines being $1,000 because I think that's the only way that we're going to deal with this. Because as you guys have all acknowledged, and now it's my turn to acknowledge, we all have done it. I try my best to be cognizant about it and only check it at a red light.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the end of the day, to Bam's point, subconsciously I see red and I'm going to take off. And I might be looking at my phone, not realizing a pedestrian is crossing. Boom, I hit. Something fatal happens. I could be held accountable for manslaughter. So just wanted to ask you gentlemen that question.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
I think raising the fine is necessary. I see the cops on the side of me and I panic and put my phone down sometimes. So I'm one of those that's really working on not putting myself in those positions anymore. Using the feature, the Bluetooth feature, just to answer and talk on the phone. That's major.
I'm sure it changes, especially even like a lot of our viewers and even you guys that are parents. I mean, everything changes. Everything you do changes. There's so much more at risk, let alone your life. But the lives you're in charge of too and are responsible for. Like, it really makes you check yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to comment because I do have a teenager, and I said that she does fairly well with the whole cell phone thing, especially when it's time for us to take it away. But at the end of the day, I have seen her, and I'm still trying to figure this out. Is this a teenage thing? What I mean is isolation. Going into her room, closing the door, and in my mind, I'm like, you on social media. But then I go back into my days. I'm like, did I really want to be around a bunch of older people when I was a teenager? No. So the cell phone and the teenager thing, it's a big epidemic. I'm blessed that I don't have. I think somebody just commented. What did Carl say? I'm blessed that I don't have to deal with it at a level of some people. Like some kids are addicted. You take it away. They're kicking. They're screaming. They're fighting. Like literally, I'm talking about teenagers. They want to disrespect their parents, and I've seen this. I've witnessed this stuff, and that's crazy. That's bizarre.
Coach, I got a question. Well, two questions really. Do you guys think this is affecting the way kids interact and socialize with each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would have to agree because I have a relative who I feel like is amazing on social media and amazing with what's going on the internet, but can't have a conversation in a setting with the rest of the family. So his only comfort is to go in the corner and look at that phone. That's when he's in his element. Mm-hmm. And he's been single a long time and always says he wants to have a girlfriend. And how do you tell a kid that? Well, hey, maybe if you get off the phone for a while and interact, one of our cousin's friends is your age right over there. It's beautiful. And you can't say one thing because you're so busy looking at your phone. So they don't really interact anymore. They're addicted to looking at the phone. And the second thing I'm going to say, I read something, Phil, when you came up with this great topic to discuss. I looked up some stuff online, and a lot of parents are saying that they lost relationships with their kids over taking away their cell phone.
Yeah. Hey, fellas, we got a live caller. Carl, say where you're calling from. What city and state?
Yeah, I'm in PG County, Maryland. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, though.
Excellent. So what's your question or comment on this topic, teenagers dealing with cell phones and how it can be addictive?
I think that it's difficult to be mindful and to be present to the moment when you have your phone and it's constantly, you know what I'm saying? Because the constant being bombarded with a constant stimuli, the lights and blinkers and notifications going off on your phone, it distracts you from being here, from being present. Like me personally, when I'm hanging out one-on-one with somebody, a friend or on a date or something, it's like the worst thing they can do is pick up their phone and start texting. You know what I'm saying? Or constantly getting their phone. Like last time I went on a date, I made the other person I took my phone, I put it on airplane, I turned it off, and the other person, I just was inspired to do the same thing. And I guess when you turn your phone off, when I turn my phone off and I just go for a walk or I'll be in nature or something like that, it teaches me how to be in tune with myself. And I can hear my thoughts again. And I can you know what I'm saying? I could be more sensitive to how I feel of my state of being at the time because I don't have a buffer in between me and myself. Because I feel like our phone is a short-term fix for being lonely or, you know what I'm saying, having negative feelings that we don't want to address.
Absolutely.
We just look at the phone.
Let me ask you this, and I know you probably don't have any scientific data, but if you could just give us a guesstimate, yourself personally in a 24-day cycle, how many times does your eyeballs go to your cell phone and look at anything? Look at the screen.
Some days is better than others.
Give me a number.
So some days I may wake up, go to work, and have my phone off the whole shift.
Okay.
And go home, not really be on my phone too much. You know what I'm saying? And then other days it's it'll just be that filler for boredom or that filler for inactivity when I'm not working and being productive or grinding and doing anything. I just be on my phone the whole time.
Would you say if I hung out with you for 7 days, 24 hours, that you're at least glancing, looking at your eyeballs, maybe 15 to 25 times a day, even if it's for literally 3 seconds?
Oh yeah, definitely. If the phone is there, it's like how could you not?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
What's triggering that? What's triggering you to glance?
Say what?
What's triggering you to look at your phone, to want to look at it? Is it an alert that you're hearing, a text message? What's causing you to look at your phone, even if it's for 3 to 5 seconds, that many times in a day? And by the way, I do it as well. I just want to get your point of view.
Oh yeah, it could be like waiting on a crush to hit me back.
Okay.
It could be just really just trying to fill in boredom and empty space, not with myself, but with like a stimuli from the outside source, from the phone. You know what I'm saying? From just useless junk information. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't really. It's not practical. It's not useful. Man. Sometimes. Sorry about that. Sorry in my house.
No worries. So, with that being said, Carl, we want to thank you for that call. Give us a call back shortly in the broadcast. You sound like somebody that's very mature and in tune, and these are the type of people that we have in the Hip Hop Success community. So, peace and blessings, Carl. We appreciate it. Stay tuned in.
Yo, that was good. That was good. I like what he said about his date. You know, I put my phone in airplane mode just to focus on that date because, you know, in the past I've been on dates before when I was single, and that's an immediate turnoff when somebody's looking at their phone the whole time that you're talking, or even partially. Not that I've ever been a boring date where people don't pay attention, but I'm just saying I've done the same thing, and I've been checked before for being on my phone. Like, hello, I'm right here. Mm-hmm. And you have to look like, whoa, you know what? Let me put this up. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great start for communication with relationships. Like, people should apply that to their dating. You know what? Let's leave the phones in the car. How about that? We already here. You here? I'm here. Phones in the car. Let's go have this date and talk and have fun. And to me, when I leave my phone away, man, it's really a peace of mind. Like Carl said, shout out to Carl, man.
Yeah, shout out to Carl. Shout out to his movement, countercultural as well. Shout out to him.
Yeah,
countercultural.
Shout out to Leslie. What did she talk about? I saw something about 20 hours. Leslie mentioned.
I guess she says she. I don't know if that means 20. Leslie, if you're on, is that 20 hours? Is that 20 hours a day? You on?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Yeah, was it 20 hours a day?
You get some sleep.
Hey, all the other people,
one eye on the cell phone.
All the other people watching, please call in. The number 725-222-8144. Call in with your opinions, comments on if you're a parent or you're a educator or teacher in the classroom dealing with youth and having issues with them having an addiction or just a very constant connection to their cell phone where it affects their attention. Please call in. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the parents. 725-222-8144. I got some other stats too for you guys. Going into the where the U.S. adults use their smartphones. It says 12% of adults use their smartphones in the shower. It says, yeah. It also says 19% of U.S. adults use it in a place of worship. So if it's in a mosque or in a church, I mean, they're supposed to be getting that word, and they on that timeline instead. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
They're on that Snapchat.
The whole purpose, bro. That defeats
yeah.
How you gonna do your spiritual work looking at the phone?
Yeah, no, I done did some stuff at the stop sign. Maybe when I'm at home and I'm doing something, I ain't gonna say what I'm doing.
Right.
But I'm using the restroom is what I'm doing. But not when I'm trying to get my spiritual, nutritional food on. No, sir. That's interesting. I would never thought about that one, Phil.
Or the shower, bro. I didn't know the water feature. I thought that was like maybe if you go to the pool, but not in the shower.
They said in the shower. I don't know if it's waterproof and they on the timeline and they're not washing their ass or whatever. I don't know. They cleaning up their friends, but not cleaning their ass. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
Leslie,
shout out to Leslie. Leslie followed up saying that she actually uses it 15 hours. I think that's funny because she does sleep at least. So Leslie sleeps, but she's on the phone 15 hours a day.
I am too for business though. If I add it all up, about 15 hours a day. Wouldn't you say 15 hours a day too, Bam? Using the phone at some level, not necessarily gauging for meaningless content, but for handling business.
Bam, you might be over that, bro. Because
you might get a text message from one of your staff. No, that's fair though. If you get a text from one of your staff members,
I work off my phone. I literally can handle business off my phone.
Hey,
just
fellas,
like a lot of people.
we got another caller calling in.
Let's go.
all right.
HipHopSuccess.tv Roundtable coach speaking. Who am I speaking with?
This is Alex.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? Just tell the people where you're calling from, city and state.
Calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
From Pennsylvania. Excellent. And
I think this is a great topic. I'm very passionate about this topic.
We're all ears.
So thank you guys for doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm a new doctor, and so when I think about cell phones and children, I think about a lot of things. One being, like, when you introduce this mobile technology to kids so early, you are influencing the ways that their neural pathways are developing, so their brains. And so when you do that, there's a lot of great things for these kids to use to learn things, but what are you taking away? So always shoving something in front of a kid's face so they can learn their ABCs through some very colorful ways is good for a little bit, but that can't be the only way that they're learning, because then they're lacking ways to be quiet, like we already spoke about, and ways to reflect and ways to self-soothe. And then I also think about when you're introducing this mobile technology, what's taking it away from them? So when these kids are on these cell phones or on the screens playing games or whatever, what are they not doing? They're not outside. They're not being active.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing team sports. They're not interacting with other people like we talked about. So what is that encouraging?
Mm-hmm.
Antisocial behavior, or, also obesity is a big epidemic in our country. So, there's only 24 hours in a day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're spending that much time on the computer, you're not spending that much time being active or engaging with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think about all this access the kids have. I'm 32 years old, so I didn't grow up with this. I got a cell phone when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got these kids walking around with these things that they have so much access to, so much ugly and hatred and just provocative things in the world that they're not prepared for, that a lot of parents aren't prepared to even address with them. And then they also have access, other people, predators have access to them. And I don't think that we're doing a great job of
That's a great point.
censoring and monitoring our kids.
Absolutely. Do you have any teenagers, whether it's your own niece? I know you said you're 32 years young. I doubt it. Nieces, nephews, cousins that you see?
I don't have any kids, but I've taught kids and I've been around kids. And one thing, I mentored these young ladies, and we had a whole debate about cell phones in the class, because apparently in some schools they can't take cell phones away from these kids. And they're like, the argument was, the logic was, I can multitask, I can scroll on my phone and I can be on social media and still pay attention to what I'm learning. And science shows that that's not real.
Absolutely.
You cannot multitask and actually do any one thing very well. You're going to do a lot of different things, poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to be learning in class. So it's an interesting topic, and I'm curious to see how this generation is going to turn out.
Absolutely. And the reason I posed that question, I wanted to know, what would you recommend as a strategy for parents that are coping with teenagers that are, addictive, and then it's really causing a problem in their life in terms of maybe their grades are suffering? What would you recommend?
Coping with teenagers?
Yeah, a teenager coping.
To that point, you're in a world of trouble. I mean, I think you really got to start early.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think Bam was saying, and you also, Coach, that you really need to say, okay, designate times to have cell phones around, and designate times that you're not going to have cell phones around, and just learn how to respect your time, respect your time with other people when you're forming relationships, and respect some quiet time for yourself. Just be alone. It's okay to be quiet. It's okay to be in the car and look outside and watch the cars go by.
Right.
It's okay to listen to grown folks talk and not have to be distracted all the time.
Yeah.
We all grew up like that, and we turned out fine.
Yeah.
It's okay for your kid to be bored. Let your kid be bored.
Absolutely.
Be bored in their imagination.
Use your imagination. Yeah.
Imagination. So we appreciate the call, hiphopsuccess.tv. We try to bring diversity in topics. So if you have an opportunity later on, share this with your community. I don't know if one of my co-hosts, did you have a question for her?
I have a question for Alex.
Okay, so Pam has a question for you, Alex.
First of all, thanks for calling in. And thanks for calling in. And as an educated woman, we appreciate the call. And just wanted to ask you, do you
anybody talking?
Okay, so she said she can't hear you. So ask me the question, and I'll kind of summarize and paraphrase.
Yeah, I just want to ask Alex if she feels that kids should be allowed to have cell phones in the schools, high school, from elementary to high school. Should they be allowed to have phones in the classroom at all?
So he wanted your professional opinion that if you had, maybe legislative pen, if you will, do you think it's a good idea to allow kids to have cell phones in the classroom from 6th grade up to?
Absolutely not. I don't think so at all. I'm one of those people, like I said, I didn't grow up with cell phones in the classroom. That's not what you're at school for. There's plenty of technology in the classroom. Your kid will not be deprived of learning how to navigate through the technological world. The chalkboards now are smart boards and stuff like that. So, and then one of the arguments too from these kids is, and also from schools, why they can't legally take these cell phones away is, what if there's an emergency? This is their personal property. Well, we dealt with emergencies before cell phones existed. There's phones in the class, and teachers can have cell phones.
There's been a process for years, and we did well by it, right? No, I was agreeing. I was saying there's been a process for years, and we've done well by it. Absolutely. So we most definitely appreciate you calling in. Stay tuned in. And as I mentioned, if you have an opportunity, share this content with your social media connections.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Alice giving us a call out of Pennsylvania. What are you seeing directly, Master 5, from the kids? I mean, you work with them hands-on as well as I do.
It's like she said, she nailed it on the head, man. I mean, there's not enough enforcement of time allotted places and zones in the house where kids can use phones. They just are constantly connected. And so when that connection is disrupted, like when it's time to learn, they can't handle that disruption. They can't handle that disconnect where it's like, what you mean I can't be on my phone? And the last stat I wanted to bring up here was they say 38% of 2-year-olds use mobile devices.
38%?
At 2 years old, they are consistently using a mobile device. So,
Phil.
Yeah.
Just on that point, 2-year-olds, I believe a lot of it is to get their attention. Have a meeting, or parents need to use the phone. It keeps the kids occupied if you give them something to watch on the phone or something to do for a second. And I think that's more the main use for the mobile device for kids. It's in a setting where you're either in the car or you're at dinner or somewhere like that. I think at home, now they give the kids iPads at home to keep them busy. A lot of kids these days have their own personal smart tablets. Of course, kids at 2 years old aren't dialing or using the phone. So I think it's just a means to occupy the kid when the parents need a little bit of privacy time to conduct business or handle something with family and they need a bit of quiet time. So you give your kid the phone and try to keep them busy for a second.
I mean, it's to the point now. A lot of, and this is a global issue because they've coined a term now. It's called nomophobia, and nomophobia means it's a phobia of having no mobile. Like they don't have a mobile device. They're actually having psychologists and counselors have workshops to work on having anxiety from separation of their mobile devices. Like the kids are literally, it's a very serious addiction that they have to where they can't focus. They can't even function normally from the separation of their cell phone or mobile device. That is a big problem.
And if you have some information, talk about the science behind it. Why is the dopamine and the serotonin that's being released into their brains, it's causing them to react a certain way or have withdrawals, if you will, right?
So what happens is, and I was talking to my girl about it. There's a thing called the circadian rhythm, and that is something that all beings on Earth go by. And circadian rhythm is the being awake and sleep cycle. And so what happens is the cell phone light, the green and yellow light that emits like that little wave thing or whatever, when it hits your eyes, it mimics daylight. And so what it does is it disrupts the brain from secreting melatonin, which makes you sleep. So when it sees that form of light, it thinks it's daylight. It secretes less melatonin, which doesn't let you fall into that deep sleep. So that's what's happening. So obviously they're saying if you do that enough, you don't get enough rest. Now, they say it can bring different health complications. You can get anxiety. You don't get enough rest. It could lead to, they're saying, diabetes, different other diseases that you can, develop if you're not getting enough rest. You might be resting on a bed, but you're not necessarily sleeping. You know what I'm saying? And the brain and the phones disrupt that activity in your brain where it switches gears for you to actually get into REM sleep, where you really start to rest and regenerate tissue and all that good stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Totally. Somebody made a comment. I just seen it on the screen really quickly that Steve Jobs only allowed his kid 2 hours per day because he knew the science, right? As a developer of these devices, and this was back when the technology was just emerging.
Come on, and it's in his business for everyone to use the technology. It's in his better business interest, yeah. And so for him to say his kids only get 2 hours because, I want my own to have the doses that they need. 2 hours. And that was big of him to even put that information out there for us to attain. But fellas, I wanted to talk to you guys about, I was just looking at, somebody wrote to my regular Facebook page that, when a lady said she took her cell phone away from her daughter and their relationship hasn't been the same. So how do you mend that type of relationship when kids have become addicted? It's almost like a kid having an addiction to a drug or an addiction to alcohol, or, and you put your kid in for nomophobia. Where do they go? Coming from the generation where we didn't have smartphones and we didn't have this type of technology, the addiction is not there for myself and people in my age group. I can see where over time I've become attached to my cell phone. I went out with my parents to a dinner and to a comedy show, and I accidentally left my cell phone at home. My mom was hyped, like, yes, I have your full attention all night. On the flip side, I felt uncomfortable for a while. Wow. Because I felt like...
You felt naked, huh?
I felt naked. It felt weird. It felt like I was missing something. After a while, it went away. We had a great dinner. We had great conversation. I felt like, you know what? I should do this more often. Because that disconnect for a minute was necessary. I could sit at the table and have this conversation and kind of check my phone, see what's going on for tomorrow, see, if everything's coming in for my business tomorrow, if I got some hip hop success news to talk about. I'm having two conversations right now, and I don't think that's wise to let kids do the same thing because their brains haven't evolved enough to do that type of multitasking. And, I think 2 hours is about perfect, man. Really, it's almost better if you said, hey, choose your 2 hours. You want to go an hour, but how can you monitor that when they're at school? It have to be when they get home.
They on it at school. They're on it at school. Trust me.
No doubt about it. My daughter tells me they are allowed to have cell phones in the classroom. And you guys know, but I want to share with the viewers, as we were putting our business plan together, we were looking at a lot of statistics, for top websites of the world. And one of them is a competitor, if you want to call them a competitor. They're the major players in our space, digital, hip-hop, even though their content and strategy is a little bit different. Name, worldstarhiphop.com. And their biggest demographic of consumers are age 12 to 21. Okay. And the company that I got this data got, they can get a lot of behind the scenes data, crawling the web and doing this sort of stuff. But they're elaborating and saying at school, Monday through Friday, okay, kids are consuming over 90 minutes of content on WorldStar. Can you imagine that at school on one website?
Wow.
I mean, they're not worried about the algebra or the social studies. They ain't trying to worry about history and World War One.
That's a lot of poison. That's a lot of poison in the kid's brain for the day.
But their minds are hooked on that sensationalism. They want to see a fight video. They want to see a girl twerking. They want to see the latest pair of Jordans. They want to see the game-winning jump shot that LeBron hit. Okay, so the only thing that we can do as parents is what you said somebody on your Facebook did, and it's causing some friction in the relationship with her daughter. But I agree with her. I would have did the same thing. I would have taken the cell phone away and, worked on repairing the relationship as need be.
Yeah, we got some comments from the audience. Leslie, she just said, thanks, Alex. Great point. What technology has made us so lazy. She said, I am guilty. I have teenagers, but we spent quality time when we eat dinner, there's no cell phone allowed. Same for video games. And then Helene Slavin, another watcher, she said she heard a pedestrian on NPR stating that children should have no more than 2 hours per day, like Steve Jobs said, due to increased anxiety when there is more. And I think Bill Gates said that. And, it's going to increase anxiety. Like social media is powerful. It is literally an alternate reality for people. But you imagine the imagination that children have and their perception of what others think of them, their filters, their pictures, how they look, their follower numbers. I'm literally seeing kids come in and they asking how many followers everybody has, like it's some sort of value in terms of.
They believe it is, though.
And that's like their currency. Like, this is my value. I got 500. You only got 500. Like, you ain't shit. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a lot of peer pressure.
That's pressure.
Yeah.
That's pressure.
That's pressure. And, but I'm an A student, but she only got 10 likes or 15 followers. But I'm going to college on a scholarship. Oh, it don't matter. I got 1,000 followers. And I'm going to junior college. Like, what?
I think Bam hit it on the nail, too, when it came to separating from the cell phone. Like, when I don't have my phone, if I forget it or whatever, there's this medium where I feel so distant from the world, but I feel so free at the same time.
Yeah.
I like it. My brain literally feels like some leech or something just got off of it. I can't get no notifications. I can't even see what time it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is some sort of freedom there with that connection. It's real. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about,
I definitely do.
We're talking about, lose your cell phone and then pay attention to that moment and see how your brain is reacting, what you're thinking about, what anxiety you actually don't have on you anymore. You really got to listen to your body. Like, there's a true connection with your cell phone, and when you are away from it, there's a freedom there. You do feel alone, disconnected, lost, like Coach said, but there is a sense of freedom too. So it's good to have that disconnect on a daily basis where you're like, look, man, I'm going to have these 5 hours. When I get off, or, when I'm at work, I'm not messing with my phone. Maybe I can be more productive, or when I get home, I'm chilling with my kids. I'm not touching my phone. People want to find me, email me after 6 p.m. Don't call me, you know what I'm saying, or whatever.
How about we do a National No Cell Phone Day?
Yeah, right. But wait, let me do a mass email and let me do a mass text. Let me do a mass email real quick on my phone.
Let's see how quick you were like, no way.
But fellas,
a whole day?
I don't know if you have a laundry list, but let's count the possibilities of distractions within the device itself. Number one, we just talked about social media. That's a distraction. Number two, there's games, video games that they can engage in, right?
Movies.
What else do they have? Movies that they can consume, right?
What?
Text messaging that they can engage in. So that's 4. what else can they engage in? They can.
Yeah, the main thing.
They can engage in educational content too. Like Larry James just made a comment. He asked, "What are your thoughts on parents that use cell phone apps to help educate children, like learning games? Does this help to cause the cell addiction?" Shout out to Larry James.
Great question.
One of our first supporters of Hip Hop Success. Thank you for that question. Thank you for your support. That's the homie right there. But that's a good point, because apps are very powerful, and a lot of them, they do a lot. They have a lot of functionality when it comes to education. I've seen some of them on tablets, you know. But are you how much content of that are you taking in that's actually educational? If you have a steady schedule where you're showing your child or, you know, the adolescent and giving them access to an app where they can do some sort of educational content on there, perform something, I mean, that's good. You know what I'm saying? But where's the balance? Like, if that's all they're getting, that's great. But if they're only getting 1 hour of that, and then the rest are like on World Star or just not being productive when they're supposed to be, that's where the problem lies. But that's a good point, because we're not just bashing technology like it doesn't help children. I'm sure it does on many levels too. So,
absolutely, it helps. But we got to highlight what we see, because you're working with the kids. I'm working with the kids. My wife works with the kids. I have a teenager. It's an issue. And it's something that we, as the hip hop culture, we want to tackle. We want to let the marketplace know that hip hop is beyond music. We are a real culture. We think, we feel, we act, we have causes. And I look at it like a grocery store. Okay, when you go into the grocery store, you have an option to buy healthy food and you have an option to buy unhealthy food. It's just, how do you teach and train your kid on which option that they should take?
Right. I agree.
The balance of it all, because the technology of cell phones, I mean, come on, it helps us all on a daily basis. It's just, how do we balance that to keep the kids productive, to keep their minds fresh, and to keep the poison out of their reach? Because like Alex said, they have so much on the cell phone that they can get to, and predators can get to them. So how do we monitor and balance that with the kids? You know, I think maybe at Hip Hop Success, like one of our camera crews, it will be cool to put 5 kids together that have cell phones and sit them down at dinner and watch them for 30 minutes, and put 5 kids at a table with no cell phone and watch the interaction, and just the difference. And I would guess that the kids without the cell phones are going to communicate more. They're going to laugh more. They're going to interact and talk about each other's lives more. Ask about what colleges they plan to go to. Talk about what they like to do in sports. Just communicate more, where if you have your cell phone, you tend to tune everybody out and kind of go into your own world for a minute, and you kind of miss that interaction that's so natural to us over the years as human beings. We're not robots. You know, sometimes we get so, you know, into the technology and into our cell phones that we forget to be humans and just talk. So every time I'm in an elevator lately and everybody's on their cell phones, I'll talk to people just to see the response I get. Hey, everybody, just want to say hello. You know,
but you know, some of them, bro, you're disrupting my phone time. Like, like talking is real intimate now. It's like, I don't know you. Like, you know, you can't even say hi. Like, you better text me. You know,
you better text me.
I don't want none of that real human interaction. That's too much for me. I'm not on that. You know, we don't do that.
I'm at a gradient spot getting some food to go, and this guy sits next to me, and he just strikes up a conversation. So I was looking at my phone, looking to see if Lonzo Ball was playing or something on sports. So we started talking. He said, "Wow, you know, you seem like a great kid." He thought I was a lot younger than I am, and he just says, "It's great to have a conversation with somebody of your age again. You know, I'm glad because I put my phone down and we just talked until my food came." He said, "That's rare." He said, "Kids usually shrug me off and don't have a conversation, continue looking at their phones, and it's just good to see people that actually can have a conversation these days." And I think that's what kind of sparked up this topic here at the round table, is we just want to, you know, we don't want to bash kids for using cell phones, because we know everybody, it's the day of technology. We don't want to bash the kids, but we just want everybody to have balance. Like you said, Coach, hip hop community, we feel, we touch, we teach, we learn, we listen to music, we have fun, but it's all about balance. I think, how do we find the balance within the technology growth and within the communication amongst each other? Balance. How do we balance that? You know?
Absolutely, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We're hitting our hour mark, so we're going to be shutting down now. But thank you for everyone that's tuned in to the Roundtable, Webisode 5. We were talking about how society might be naive or is being naive to children being addicted to mobile devices and technology. We are in a technologically driven era, but still there should be some sort of filter or control with parents and how they introduce technology to children at a young age. I read some of the statistics earlier. One of the biggest ones that we saw, obviously, was the 38% of 2-year-olds use mobile devices. Bam said that's okay for some things. You know, they're just trying to get some kids' attention, stimulate them a little bit, but it's all in moderation. That's the key, just like Coach and Bam said. Keep this conversation going. Share this thread on all social media for you guys. Thank you for joining the discussion. I'm Mastify. You can find me on all social media at Mastify, MASTA_PHI. Also follow us on all social media for hiphopsuccess.tv at hiphopsuccess.tv. Coach, where can everybody find you at?
Everybody can find me on all social media at Coach Tony Brace. That's TonyBrace. Also, another feature that we're adding to the Roundtable, because this content continues to streams. We get views, we get comments, we get shares. So what I want people to know, that if you didn't get an opportunity to call in, still call into the number 725-222-8144 and leave a message. And then on the next Roundtable, we can play that message, kind of like a recap before we get into some new content. So that's something that we want to let the audience know. Again, hiphopsuccess.tv, this whole platform is community-based. We're not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit, but we don't charge you. We charge the advertisers. So that's where they can get with me. Bam.
Hey, also support us at hiphopsuccess.tv. Order your merchandise. We got sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, the whole nine. You can find me at Bambino's World on Instagram, at Bambino's World 62 on Twitter. But we want to welcome everybody to the Roundtable every week. We're coming with new topics that are for you, the people. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them on topics that you feel like we should address on the Roundtable. We would love to pick one of those topics and have you, the people, as a guest on the show.
Yes. Look for future guests, celebrity interviews, the whole nine. We're getting ready to bring it.
Shout out to, is it Helene, that says she loves us and human interaction. So we're not going to take you back, Helene. We're saying, hi, Helene.
Hi, Helene.
Human interaction. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is Hip Hop Success TV, the Roundtable, baby. And we're out.
Peace.
Blessings.
Peace.